this is Charlie Musselwhite, and you're listening to Retrospectives with John Broughton on KC Radio, 97.7 FM. Yeah, baby, I ain't lying.
There were harmonicas around the house, and neighbors played, and so it was, a lot of it going on. I don't really remember a first time. It was just like part of the environment.
I guess growing up in Memphis, you would have been exposed to a lot of music. What were the first sounds that were really starting to grab your attention?
Well, I liked hillbilly, like the old style hillbilly that you hardly hear anymore. There was plenty of that on the radio, and blues too. There were a lot of street singers in Memphis. You go downtown, and there's a blind guy that played guitar, and there's another guy that played a mandolin, and there's a guy that played slide guitar. You never know who you might see. Some people you'd see regularly. Other guys you might see once and never ever see them again. Don't even know who they were or what happened to them or anything. But it was, for me, it was really, I was just fascinated by these guys that played in the streets for tips.
Yeah.
So, and I'd find old blues records in junk stores. Back in those days, you could get them for a nickel or a dime a piece. Stacks of them. And now those 78s are probably worth hundreds of dollars a piece.
Yeah.
And I still got most of them.
Wow. It'd be worth a bit of money now.
Yeah.
Did you become a real student of the blues growing up? Did you actively seek out the blues greats that inspired you?
Yeah, I did, but I wasn't doing it because I thought I was going to be a professional musician or anything. I just loved the music so much, I just wanted to learn how to play just for myself. I really didn't have any kind of designs on becoming a musician. I just liked the music, that's all. It was just like a hobby, more or less. I didn't know it was going to end up like this. So yeah, I sought out people that played that I could watch and learn from and hang out with, and it was some good times. I wish I'd been paying more attention.
Moving to Chicago when you did must have been an exciting time. Were you aware of the legendary status of the guys that you saw there when you came across them, or wasn't until later years that you really appreciated the greatness of the scene there?
Well, I had all their records, I knew who Sonny Boy and Wolf and Muddy and Elmore and all those guys were. I didn't know that they were all in Chicago. When I went to Chicago, I was just going up there looking for some factory work, because I heard it was good jobs up there with benefits and everything. And the work I'd been doing around Memphis was real hard labor for little money, and everything seemed like kind of a dead end, even though I'd known these guys like Furry Lewis and Will Shade and Earl Bell and a lot of the guys in Memphis, they hadn't really told me much about Chicago either, because they never really went up there. They just were Memphis guys, So when I got up to Chicago, the first job that I got was a driver for an exterminator, which meant driving all over Chicago, which meant I learned the city real fast, the whole layout of everything, and I would see posters and signs in club windows talking about Muddy Waters is playing here and all that, and I'd write down the addresses, and I felt like a kid in a candy store, because here was all these people I'd been listening to. They were all there, and man, it was great just to go down to these clubs at night, and the rest, it was cheap too. Like at Pepper's Lounge to see Muddy Waters, I think Monday night was quarter night. You got in for a quarter, and with your ticket you got a free beer, and Muddy Waters till 4 in the morning. How good could it get?
That's a bargain.
Yeah.
When you started to get to know the guys there, were you readily welcomed into the scene by some of the artists there?
Oh yeah, because at that time blues was really it was like adult music. The kids my age, black or white, just weren't interested in blues, and so they were real flattered that I knew who they were, that I knew the names of their tunes. That I would come to the club and hang out all night and party with them. I mean, and when they found out I played too, they thought that was really interesting, So first of all, they were flattered that I was even there, and then second of all, they were really interested that I actually knew how to play. So they would have me sit in, and when word got out that I played, I guess they liked the way I played because I started getting offered jobs. So the doors opened, and I went through them.
Did you find there was a real sense of camaraderie amongst the artists there, or a sense of community amongst them all?
A sense of community. Yeah, I mean, everybody pretty much knew everybody else. I mean,
they're all supportive of each other's careers. They weren't competitive.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. No, there was a lot of backstabbing going on. I mean, there was guys that would go up to a club owner and say, whatever you're paying the band you got, we'll work for less, you know. And so it was hard being except for guys that had out regular singles like, records like Muddy and Wolf and Sonny Boy. They were doing pretty good. You know, they toured, they had bands, and they made records, and they were well known, and they were played on the radio. Then you had all these other guys like, well, Louis Myers, and would be an example of somebody that he'd play in a club for a while, then he'd go work in a factory for a while, then he'd go back to the club and back to the factory, and it was just we're all just kind of bouncing around. You'd play at a club till that job would end for one reason or another. It might be a shooting or something. They'd close the place up or something like that. And then you go find yourself a factory job. And in those days, you could just walk into a factory and go to work right then. There was tons of work.
Yeah.
So it was just a really kind of a musician's paradise in that sense. You never had to really scuffle that bad. If you didn't have the music going, you could get yourself a day job at a drop of a hat. It's not like that now, I hear.
No, I guess not. What about some of the other younger bluesmen that were coming through there around the same time as yourself? Who were some of the standout characters there that you got to know?
Younger blues guys coming through Chicago?
Yeah, about the same time as you did.
Well, there wasn't many. I mean, it was hardly anybody. There was Paul Butterfield and Mike Bloomfield and Elvin Bishop. That was about it that I recall. There was a few other guys I don't remember what happened to or anything, but in those days, I mean, blues just wasn't very well known. You go into a record store and it'd be, if they had any blues records at all, there was just a handful, and they'd be stuck in some corner somewhere. And there was no blues societies. There were no blues publications except Blues Unlimited, which at that time was like a mimeographed thing from England, and that was it. Sometimes in Downbeat there might be a little story on blues, but it was not like it is today. There was no. Now you got festivals and blues clubs, and things are way better.
Yeah. Do you still remember the thrill of your first recording contract and your first time in the studio?
Oh, yeah, I remember. I think we spent about a total of 3 hours in the studio and just cranked it out, and that was it. And from what I understand, they tell me that record is still in the red.
Still.
And it's never been out of print. I don't understand that, but...
Now, the legends have it that you used to run a bit of moonshine in your day.
Oh, yeah, in Memphis, down in Tennessee, I'd drive out in the country and pick up a load and bring it into Memphis, and these guys would bottle it up, and they would sell it at these hamburger drive-in places where back in those days they had guys that come out and put a tray on your car door, and you'd order a hamburger, and if you looked okay, you could get yourself a pint of homemade whiskey too. That was kind of an interesting time.
I bet. What prompted you to eventually head to California when you did? And was there any semblance of a blues scene happening there when you arrived?
Well, I didn't really know anything about California. I was living in Chicago, and I had heard of California, but to me it was like this place that was way far away, and there was a lot of weird people. That's all I knew about it. And I kept getting calls to come out to California to play, and but it just wasn't worth going that far for one or two jobs. And finally, somebody offered me a whole month long tour, and for really good money. So I said, okay, and I got a band together, went out there. And when I got out there, here were these clubs that were like, to me, they were huge. I mean, I'd never seen so many people at one time in one place. They were like the Fillmore Auditorium and the Avalon Ballroom and other places, and they loved blues. It was like something exotic to them. You know, they didn't really know about blues. They were just finding out about it. And they were paying real good money, and I just never went back to Chicago. And a lot of guys started moving out. Also, the main thing that really happened was the underground radio.
Oh, yeah.
They were playing, they didn't, in those days, a disc jockey could play whatever he wanted to play. He wasn't told what to play. He wasn't given a playlist or anything. It was, those guys would be bringing records from home and playing them. And so that's how I got played on the radio, and a lot of other blues guys. So there was kind of an exodus out to California because of what had happened with the underground radio. People wanted to see these people they heard, and suddenly there was all this great work, all up and down the West Coast.
You ever stop and wonder what direction your career may have taken had you ended up staying in Chicago and not relocated?
I have often wondered. I remember the last time I saw Robert Nighthawk, he was going to drive down to Florida. He wanted me to go with him. He said, we can go down there and we can pull corn for $25 a day, and we can play music at night and make a whole bunch more money. And but I didn't go. But I think it's probably, I don't know, it's hard to look back and figure out what would have happened. I think going to California was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, yeah. Your career went through a quiet time in the 70s. I guess generally there was a bit of a decline in interest in blues at that time. Was that a frustrating time for you, and when did things start to turn around again?
Well, it was a frustrating time for live music in general. It was the kind of the disco era, I believe. Yeah. And all these clubs had DJs playing records with light shows and stuff. But I always worked. It was always some work. I did take a factory job there for a while. And I did some construction work for a friend of mine and stuff like that. But it didn't get that bad. It was just real slow.
Yeah. But enough to keep you going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You moved through a few record labels in your time. Has it been difficult over the years to find a label that's been committed to the type of music you wanted to make?
Yeah, well, sometimes you find people that are committed, but they don't know the business. Mm-hmm. Or you find somebody that knows the business, but they're so big that you get lost in the shuffle. There's all kind of things that happen. But things keep working out, you know.
It all falls into place.
Alligator was a real big turning point for a lot of people. I mean, they really love the music, and they really take care of their artists, and they're real honest, and they have compassion for their. You could, like, if you're stranded somewhere, your van breaks down, you can call Alligator any time of the day, and they'll wire you money or whatever you need to get you to your next gig. They'll take care of you.
Mm. It's rare these days in a label, really, isn't it?
There's not many labels like that around.
One thing I've always admired about your work, although you're primarily known as a blues artist, you've never been afraid to adopt other styles of music, even music from other cultures. Is that something that's particularly important to you?
Well, the thing that I like about blues is it has feeling. And sometimes you find other tunes that has feeling in it too from other places, you know, like some standards will have like that melancholy feel to it, like Yesterdays or What's New, which are common tunes for jazz musicians to play. And jazz itself is just an extension of blues in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not a jazz player, but I listen to a lot. And I listen to a lot of music from all over the world. It seems like a lot of places, the local folk music will have some kind of music that's from the heart. It's really has that melancholy feel to it, or about the troubles of the world, and it's interesting.
Your style of pinpoint influences there. Is establishing your own style, that's been a priority right from the start?
No, I just never really thought about that at all. The main idea to me was just learn your instrument and play what you feel. Of course, I listen to everybody, and obviously, to my mind, I must have been influenced by the people I was around and the people I was listening to. I can't say for sure, what note I took from who or whatever, but pretty much it was just trying to play what I could feel in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that some guys spend all their time memorizing every lick by a little Walter or Sonny Boy or something, and that's a good way to learn your instrument. But at some point you should think about playing what's going on inside you, and you become part of the instrument.
You still learn after all these years? Like, is the harmonica still an instrument you can learn things about after all this time playing it?
Oh yeah, there's no end to it. There's always something new to learn, and the smarter I get, the dumber I feel. I'm always learning.
There's been some great musicians in your bands over the years too, and some have gone on to their own great careers. That must be particularly satisfying to see them go on like that.
Oh yeah, people like Robin Ford, and it's nice to see people being successful at what they love. It's real rewarding.
Now, you're also quite accomplished on guitar, which is probably something that the casual observer wouldn't realise about you. Was there a time when you had to make a conscious decision to focus on a particular instrument?
Well, I never really tried to push the guitar part. When I got to Chicago, there was tons of guitar players and hardly any harmonica players, so it was real easy to get work as a harmonica player. I didn't like walking around with a guitar anyhow. It looked too obvious,
Mm.
But I could have a harmonica in my pocket, and I could, nobody knew if you had one or not. And it's just the way things went. I'd always played guitar just because I wanted to play, just enjoyed playing it. And over the years, word kind of got out that I played. People started asking me to play, and I would record a few tunes, and then I got offered tours to play. Like when I'm going over to the Bishop Stock Festival tomorrow, I'm leaving to play just a solo set, sitting down, playing guitar with the harmonica on a rack, right between the Thunderbirds and Ruth Brown. I don't know how I got myself in that mess, but I'll do all right.
Yeah, that should be great.
Yeah. I did tours with BB, opening for him, playing solo. So it's been kind of a new little thing that's been opening up.
You've received many awards and accolades for your work over the years. How do you rate that type of recognition, and which awards have meant the most to you?
Well, it's really nice getting a Handy Award, since they're so totally devoted to blues. That's like the award. And that really means a lot. And they've done a lot for blues, and so I'd have to say that a Handy Award is like, that's it. Of course, I'd love to get a Grammy someday, but Robert Cray, I was nominated this year, but Robert Cray won, so I told Robert he was my second choice.
Yeah, but the Handies have really become significant, haven't they, especially in recent times?
Oh, yeah. That's for the blues, that's it. Yeah.
Now,
I've got about 7 or 8 of them.
Oh, you got a nice collection happening.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. They're on my shelf in a row.
In comparison to other stages of your career, the phase you're going through now, would this be one of the most happier phases of your career?
Yeah, I'd say it was doing really well. Mm-hmm. A lot of interesting things are going on, and I enjoyed getting to play. Well, like Tom Waits had me play on his album. That was a lot of fun to do that. And then he produced a new John Hammond album, and I played on that one too, which I don't know when that will be released. And there's a Blind Boys of Alabama album that'll be coming out that I'll play on. It's really a lot of fun to play in a different setting like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice challenge, something that we don't ordinarily do. And there's an idea about a movie that just came up the other day. Somebody wants me in a movie. I don't know. We'll see. And I'm working on all kinds of stuff like that.
That's tremendous. Keep them busy.
Yeah.
Blues music really has that ability to pass through generations, to outdo other musical styles that come and go. What do you think it is about that type of music that manages to transcend generations as it does?
Blues can't be denied.
Yeah.
It's just, it's about life, and it's about real things, and people, I think there's something in people that hungers for something that's real, Things come along that are flashy, and they're a big hit, and then they're gone, and that's okay for a minute, but blues is something you gotta have, it's just like food for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have it.
A good answer. All right, yeah. Charlie, before I let you go, what about recording plans? You got anything in the works there?
Well, I'm always thinking about new tunes, so when I feel like I'm ready, I'll do that. But I've been so busy touring, it's hard to find time to do everything. But I'll get around to it. It's on my list of things to do.
Okay, Charlie, look, thanks for your time. It's been a real pleasure catching up with you. And you're always welcome down here in Australia. You've had some great tours here in the past, and we hope that we'll get to see you again real soon.
Well, I'm real homesick for Australia. I want to come back soon. There's a lot of wonderful people there, good friends there, and some fine musicians there. Play some really good blues, and I hope I can get back real soon.
Yeah, we'd love to see you. You're always welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie. Take care. We'll see you real soon.
All righty.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.